Welcome to the Perimenopause Playbook, a place where we explore the fascinating intersection of neuroscience and interior design to support the cognitive health of women in perimenopause and menopause. I am Lola Ajayi, an interior designer on a mission to share my findings on neuroscience for interior design with protocols and ideas that support and enhance the cognitive well-being of women during this transformative stage of life. Join me as we delve into the fascinating world of neuroscience for interior design and discover how we can create spaces that nurture and empower women during this important time. Let's design supportive spaces for a healthier mind, a healthier body, and a healthier soul together. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Perimenopause Playbook. Took a little break just to finish off the structure for the next 11 to 12 episodes of the Perimenopause Playbook. And in this series, we're going to be examining and highlighting the toxins in our homes. And it's going to be really interesting. I started a series as well on my social media where you can go to learn quick, bite-sized design ideas, inspirations on how to make your spaces more supportive to your cognitive health. And recently I have been thinking a lot about the materials that we use in our homes, in our finishes, on our walls, the flooring, even the clothing that we wear, and the items that we use for just everyday items like cooking equipment, cooking utensils, and so on and so forth. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't explore the subject, because a big part of my wellness journey as well, when I started having major health issues, like mental health and cognitive health and just physical health issues, one of the things that went away was plastic. And I stopped using commercial hair and body care products for a really long time, but it wasn't primarily because I was trying to get healthier. I was just a little anal about the quality of materials that were used in my skin and hair care, and I learned how to make my own skin and hair care, which led to me having more control over what goes in there. And so I was sure that whatever it was I was putting on my hair and my body was beneficial for my hair and my body without any of the non-beneficial elements. But fast forward to started early last year, it started to become even more clear to me that it's not just our skincare. I mean, I have known this for a while, but it's everything. And thankfully, we have alternatives that we can use, which is just as effective. Without much further ado, let's dive into episode 11 that I have titled The Hidden Hazards in Our Homes. It's the first of many, and I hope you stick around because it's going to be really eye-opening, and not just eye-opening, it's going to help you start to intentionally think about how your spaces are curated and put together to support you and your family. So today we're exposing the toxic substances that are hiding in our home interiors, which you most likely interact with every single day, but you may not even notice. For instance, that cozy sofa and that favorite scented candle, they're not as innocent as they seem. And if we begin to isolate the bad guys from the good guys by breaking larger elements down to the chemical components, we will start to see what's good for us and what's bad for us. And just a quick one before we continue. I'm not here to shame or tell you to throw everything in your house. It would be overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me, so I took it step by step. I started small and I built on what I already had from there. And over time, you find that your homes are cleaner, your health is starting to be better because of the small changes that you're making. So it's not about starting with a bang. It's about awareness and taking it from there. So, and when we have awareness, we create a sense of empowerment for ourselves, and we find solutions that work. So let's move on to the chemicals. We find endocrine disrupting chemicals, also known as EDCs, volatile organic compounds, also known as VOCs, and flame retardants in our homes, and they impact our brain health. While I support protecting our homes from fire hazards, we have to be aware of the chemical components in these products. And if you're in perimenopause or postmenopause, you've already got enough on your plate with hormonal changes and cognitive shifts that we don't need to add on any extra layers to make life even more challenging or difficult. So let's tackle this together so you can breathe easier, literally and figuratively. And before we go on, I was listening to this podcast at the Diary of a CEO, and it had this PhD toxicologist called Dr. Yvonne Burkhardt, and her story really resonated with me because it sounded a lot like the why I am doing what I'm doing right now. It's very personal. It was her health issues that triggered her foray into deeper and deeper research, and it is her love for sharing this information that has brought her out into the limelight. So she said this: the brain is incredibly sensitive to environmental toxins that even at low levels, prolonged exposure to harmful chemicals can disrupt neural pathways, impair memory, and alter emotional regulation. So protecting our spaces from these toxins is as essential as nourishing our bodies with healthy food. If you would like to listen to her entire episode, I'm hoping that I'm able to bring her on board sometime in the future. But for now, just go to Diary of a CEO and look for Dr. Yvonne Burkhardt's episode. I believe it was his most recent episode that aired this week. So yeah, let's dive in. Let's start by peeling back the curtain on some of the most invisible culprits that can sabotage our cognitive and emotional well-being. And like I said, these chemicals are lurking everywhere in our home. And what is fascinating and frankly a little unsettling to me is how deeply these toxins can infiltrate our brain's protective barrier, throwing our neural and hormonal systems into chaos and just making life really difficult. So we're going to break this down step by step to fully understand it, because knowledge is power, awareness is key, and action brings changes. I came up with that for myself, by the way. So quote me. Let's move on. So let's start with the first offender is endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, and I've named this quite aptly the hormone hijackers. So EDCs like BPAs and parabens, they're like little troublemakers that mimic natural hormones in our bodies, particularly estrogen, and they wreak havoc by interfering with signaling pathways in the brain. Now, a bit of the neuroscience on this is estrogen isn't just something that influences our reproductive health. It plays a pivotal role in brain plasticity and neuroprotection. And when these EDCs bind to estrogen receptors in critical areas like the hippocampus, which governs memory, or the amygdala, which processes emotions, they throw our systems out of whack, this neuroplasticity and neuroprotective system. A 2020 study found that even at low dose exposure to BPA, it can impair hippocampal neurogenesis, which is the process of creating new neurons that are vital for memory and learning. And these disrupted hormonal signaling pathways can then exacerbate symptoms like mood swings, anxiety, and irritability, which are hallmarks of perimenopause. Now, add to this the existing hormonal roller coaster of midlife, and you've got a recipe for emotional exhaustion. And here's the kicker. These EDCs, they are in everyday items like food containers and our personal care products. Yes, you heard that right. Personal care products. Like plastics, cosmetics, and sometimes even in furniture. So eliminating these offenders aren't just a health move, they are a sanity-saving strategy. Now, as usual, links to research are in the show notes for anyone who is interested and curious to learn more. So I'm just going to talk about, the basics, and then you can go to the research and do a bit more digging to see, to learn more. And also follow my daily posts on my podcast where you will learn more as well. So coming in hot at number 2 are VOCs, also known as volatile organic compounds, the brain's oxidative frenemies. Now, VOCs, let me establish first of all that VOCs, volatile organic compounds, are emitted by plants, they're emitted by even humans, and these chemicals are not all bad. There are harmful VOCs and they're beneficial VOCs. So I'm talking about harmful VOCs here. So these VOCs, the harmful ones, are emitted by paint, cleaning supplies, and even used in furniture treatment. And they are neurotoxic chemicals that are capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier. Now, the blood-brain barrier is our brain's security system. But these VOCs, like for instance benzene and toluene, they can sneak through. And once they're inside the brain, they unleash oxidative stress, which is an overproduction of harmful molecules that then attack the neurons in the brain. And chronic oxidative stress can then lead to neuroinflammation, which left over time and untreated, which becomes a hallmark for conditions like depression and Alzheimer's. A 2021 review even highlights the correlation between indoor air pollution from VOCs and cognitive impairment. Link in the show notes, as always. Psychologically, VOC exposure can heighten our sensory sensitivities, which leads to high levels of irritability or feelings of being on edge. And when you combine these with perimenopause or brain fog, this can intensify the sense of feeling out of control over our cognitive and emotional stability. Do you see the trend here? The ability for these toxins to cross the blood-brain barrier and impair our cognitive function. So if you've ever felt inexplicably moody after a day indoors, your air quality might be to blame and the toxins that live in them. Because VOCs have a very sneaky way of turning the sanctuary of our homes into a source of stress, and we need to identify this and begin to get rid of them. Now, moving on to number 3, we have formaldehyde, which is the invisible cognitive saboteur. And this formaldehyde is common in pressed wood furniture, it's common in fabric, and used in adhesives. And the research shows that formaldehyde disrupts acetylcholine, if I pronounce that right, which is a neurotransmitter that is vital for learning and memory. And this disruption not only impairs cognitive function, but it also damages mitochondrial health. And mitochondria is the energy center of our neurons. If that is damaged, then need I say more? And now the exposure to formaldehyde, consistent and persistent exposure to formaldehyde has been linked to increased stress levels, increased irritability, and a heightened sense of mental fatigue, which can be devastating for us who are already navigating perimenopausal challenges. Now think of it this way. Every time that we inhale formaldehyde, our brain is forced to work overtime just to maintain its baseline function. And if we remove these toxins, then our brains are able to function not just at the baseline function level, but also function at optimal health. All right, now in first place, we have phthalates. And I know phthalates, I feel is one chemical that has made headlines time and time again. And I find it frankly irritating that phthalates still exist in products despite the fact that we have highlighted just how bad it is for health in general. And these phthalates are still found in plastics, they're still found in fragrances, and they target your stress response system. Now, the science on this is that phthalates disrupt the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, also known as the HPA axis. And this axis governs your stress hormone. So, by interfering with glucocorticoid receptors, they impair cortisol regulation, which then leaves the brain more susceptible to chronic stress and inflammation. So if you're not familiar with what cortisol does, so cortisol is that neurotransmitter hormone that is released into your bloodstream upon waking up, which helps you become alert, functional, and on top of your game. And that cortisol level starts to decline towards the end of the day to help you get into your sleep state. And cortisol is so important to the human body. And if this is impaired, or its ability to spike and reduce is impaired, hello chronic stress, hello inflammation. Now, when our body is unable to regulate stress, it leads to amplified levels of anxiety and, of course, sleep disturbances, like I mentioned earlier. And these are already prevalent in midlife. So phthalates essentially pour gasoline on an already smoldering fire. So when we replace plastic storage containers with glass, which is, like I mentioned earlier, phthalates are found in plastics. Plastics are everywhere. When we replace plastic storage containers with glass, it might feel like a really small change, but it is one of the most impactful changes that you can make for your brain's resilient. I personally saw a change in also because I was paying attention. I felt a change in my general well-being when I got rid of plastic containers. Granted, a lot of the glass containers that I have got plastic covers, but what's important to know here is when you're using glass containers with plastic covers, make sure that the food or whatever you're storing in there doesn't touch the plastic top. Just shy of the container level and you'll be fine. I'm looking forward to a day when we would have healthier alternatives to a plastic cover, maybe a silicone cover. I did do a lot of research into silicone materials, so silicone might be a good alternative, but don't quote me on that. I am not sure. So that's that on phthalates and how it disrupts our brain stress system. Let's move on to flame retardants. Now, flame retardants for me is a tricky one because without flame retardant treated materials, especially in commercial spaces, a fire outbreak would spread super, super quickly. And it's really, really crucial to protect our homes from fires starting and spreading quickly. And that's what these are good for. But, that said, flame retardants like BPDE, they tend to accumulate in our bodies over time from inhalation. And these BPDE, they interfere with thyroid hormones, and thyroid hormones are critical for neural repair and synaptic plasticity. And when we're consistently exposed to these chemicals, they lead to reduced neurogenesis, particularly in the hippocampus, which then increases the risk of memory deficits and cognitive decline. And when neural repair is impaired, even small stressors can feel overwhelming. And women in perimenopause, we might notice more pronounced mood swings and difficulty concentrating in homes that are laden with BPDE. And according to the National Library of Medicine, I've been avoiding trying to pronounce the word because it's a mouthful. It's called BBDs are polybrominated diphenyl esters. And the National Library of Medicine have identified them as a class of recalcitrant and bioaccumulative halogenated compounds that have emerged as a major environmental pollutant. That is huge. And it's quite scary doing all this research and seeing all these things, but it's really important to point them out so that we can make informed decisions moving forward. So choosing toxin-free furniture materials isn't just about having style. It's about safeguarding our brain's ability to adapt and recover. So the takeaway here is that each of these toxins, they chip away at our brain's defense system, and they in turn compromise our emotional well-being, especially during hormonal transition. So awareness is the first step, but action is where transformation happens. I hope that you're finding today's deep dive into hidden home hazards as eye-opening as I have while I was doing the research for this, and also even recording this episode. It's been like, wow. Now, I know it's a lot to take in, and maybe you've got questions thrown around in your mind from what you've listened to so far. Here is the chance to ask me anything. So if you'd like to know more about volatile organic compounds and how to identify toxic finishes, or what the safest alternatives could be, or maybe you're even curious about how hormonal shifts make women in midlife more vulnerable, or how to detox your hormonal budget, or how to curate your space to better support you, whatever it is, I want to hear from you. So this is how it works. Drop your questions via the question box on my Instagram stories, or send me a message on TikTok. I'm on both social media. I'm more active on TikTok than I am on Instagram. Or you can email me directly at my email address in the show notes. And your questions could be featured in an upcoming Ask Me Anything podcast episode where I'll tackle them head on. And guys, no question is too small and no question is too big. I'm ready to do the research, and I'll be happy to help you find answers to your questions. So go ahead, ask away, because if you're wondering about it, chances are that someone else is too. So let's create healthier, happier hope together. I can't wait to hear from you. Welcome back. So before we move on to the next segment, I want to wrap up the first segment by highlighting why eliminating these toxins will be so essential for our overall health. The first is cognitive protection. So removing or reducing exposure to these substances will help maintain the integrity of your blood-brain barrier. It will support healthy neurotransmitter function and reduce inflammation, all critical for long-term brain health. The second is emotional wellness. So a toxin-free environment reduces sensory and hormonal stressors and then promotes a calmer and more balanced emotional state. Now the third is enhanced resilience. So by supporting brain plasticity and reducing neurotoxin exposure, women in midlife, and by extension everyone, can better navigate hormonal transitions with clarity and confidence. I mean, not everyone is experiencing hormonal transitions, but, by extension, everyone can benefit from reducing toxins in the environment. Right, so now that we have uncovered what these toxins do to the brain, let us examine why midlife women, especially people in perimenopause and postmenopause. Okay, I'm going to backtrack here. Perimenopause is not just a condition. It's not just a transition that starts in midlife. I have seen research that shows women in their 30s enter into perimenopause for many reasons. It could be surgery, it could be other health challenges that would push you into early perimenopause. So this is not just for women who are in their 40s. If you're experiencing perimenopause, everyone is welcome as long as this identifies with you. So yeah, so I just felt like I need to say that because it feels like I've been using a lot of midlife women today, and it's not just with midlife women who are experiencing perimenopause. So let's backtrack. Yeah. So women in perimenopause and postmenopause are disproportionate. We are disproportionate. My God, we are disproportionate. Oh my God, I'm having a hard time articulating my words today. Women in perimenopause and postmenopause are disproportionately affected because we're already dealing with hormonal shifts. And it's not just about hormones, although they play a huge part. It is also about the intersection of cognitive health, stress regulation, and the demands of modern life. So hormones like estrogen and progesterone, they're not just about reproduction. They act as neuromodulators that affect everything from mood to memory. And during perimenopause, these fluctuating hormone levels, they create a unique set of challenges for the brain. Now, estrogen supports the synthesis of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, and these regulate mood, focus, and energy. And a 2022 study reveals that declining estrogen levels impair hippocampal function and increase sensitivity to oxidative stress, making the brain more susceptible to toxin-induced damage. When these estrogen levels drop, the brain's ability to manage stress diminishes, which leads to heightened anxiety levels, or even depressive episodes. And this reduced resilience leaves us women in perimenopause and postmenopause more prone to the cognitive and emotional toll of toxin exposure. So think of estrogen as your brain's multitasking coach. It keeps the team working efficiently. And when that coach goes on hiatus, toxins find an open field to wreak havoc because it's lower levels, more susceptibility, bigger damage. Now, women in midlife will find, specifically midlife, because we've lived, we are often juggling, for the most part, we're often juggling careers, caregiving responsibilities, and our personal health. And all the while we're navigating hormonal transition. Now, this high baseline stress load makes the brain more reactive to environmental toxins. And that's why it is absolutely important to stay on top of this and start to think intentionally about what we are exposed to. Now, a bit of the science is prolonged stress levels increases cortisol levels, which can then shrink the hippocampus and impair memory. Now, when you add toxins like phthalates or VOCs into the mix, the cumulative effect is even greater neuroinflammation and oxidative damage. Now, the cognitive load of midlife, guys, is real. When toxins exacerbate mental fog or emotional instability, it is really easy to feel overwhelmed and not in control. Psychologists often call this phenomenon decision fatigue, and toxins are the layer of pressure, albeit invisible, but powerful. So it's not just about what is in our home, it's about how our environment either supports us or undermines our ability to handle life's demands. Now, research shows, again, that the brain undergoes a natural remodeling process during perimenopause, especially in regions tied to executive function and memory. And when toxins are introduced, they disrupt this adaptation, which makes cognitive transitions more difficult. Now, a bit of science. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation, becomes even more vulnerable during perimenopause transition. A 2019 study found that exposure to flame retardants slowed synaptic plasticity, which is the brain's ability to rewire and adapt itself. And this process is already less efficient during perimenopause because we're going through the stage where we are adapting to a new way of being. And so when we're exposed to these toxins, it makes this adaptation process, it either halts it or it disrupts it, and it makes the stage way less efficient. The process of transitioning through perimenopause to postmenopause, much less efficient than it would have if there were no toxins involved. Now, this period of brain remodeling can bring feelings of uncertainty, of self-doubt, which is a normal process. And this is why rethinking of our interior spaces or our work environment to support this transition is really, really important. But when it's compounded by toxins that induces unnecessary brain fog and memory lapses, it is easy to misattribute these changes to personal failure rather than environmental factors. Now imagine trying to upgrade your phone's operating system while it's running on low battery. This is what the brain is doing during midlife, during perimenopause. Now add a few malware like toxins and you see why this phase can feel so chaotic. But the good news is that we can change this and we can better support this transition from perimenopause to postmenopause. So yeah, let's move on to another layer of complexity that women in perimenopause face is the role that many of us play as decision makers of our households. Now, we all don't have immediate families. We're all not married. We all don't have kids. We still make decisions. For instance, I'm going to personalize this. For me, being the only girl in my family, there are many times and instances where, even as adults, when there are challenges in the home, sometimes my brothers would call me. Sometimes my mom would call me. And it feels like a lot of the time I'm making some of the decisions in the family. And this is a role that women act. This is the role that women play as gatekeepers in the community. There's so much to unpack here in this in this idea that women are the gatekeepers of wisdom, they're the gatekeepers of decision making in households, in their households, and in fact in community. So it is really important for us to start to protect ourselves and take really good care of ourselves, because there's already so much pressure from our environment, so much pressure from our families that we love, and we need to think about taking really good care of ourselves. So from choosing cleaning products to managing family health, women have been disproportionately exposed to toxins through daily activities. Now, studies show that repetitive low-dose exposure to toxins like formaldehyde and EDCs can lead to cumulative neurotoxic effects, which women in caregiving roles are more at risk of. Link to this study in the show notes. Psychologists highlight that the emotional labor that's associated with managing a home and managing a community or managing people is often invisible, but it's mentally taxing. And when this labor involves frequent toxin exposure, it creates a unique intersection of physical and emotional strain. So women, ladies, we're not just exposed to toxins, we are tasked with eliminating them for the sake of first of all, ourselves and our families. This is a role that is both empowering and is quite frankly sometimes exhausting, but if we understand how to navigate this period and navigate our environment and curate it to support us, it's not as exhausting as it would be currently if we didn't. So the takeaway here is we in perimenopause and postmenopause, we face the perfect storm. We're going through hormonal shifts, we're going through heightened stress levels, we're going through cognitive changes, we're going through family and community demands, and these vulnerabilities, if we understand them, are the first step to protecting our brain health. So in the next segment, we're going to discuss and dive into actionable strategies where we can reclaim control and create toxin-free spaces that truly support us. Hi there. So this is a quick one to announce my workshop coming up December 2024. It's on the subject of creating supportive spaces to support our cognitive health in our residential spaces. And it's going to be so much fun. I am looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous because it's my first workshop, but I'm really excited to share all this knowledge with you. And if you do sign up, the link to sign up is in the show notes. If you do sign up, you get access to a free e-guide and interactive workbook. And the point of the workbook and e-guide is to help you start to think intentionally about your spaces, just to understand what neuroscience is, how it can be applied to interior design strategies, so that you're not coming on as a newbie. And hopefully you have many, many questions to ask once the workshop ends, and we open the ground and we open the floor for questions, hopefully. So if you haven't already signed up, link is in the show notes. Do sign up, and I look forward to seeing you there. All right, let's go back to the rest of the podcast. Welcome back. So we have talked about toxins in the home, the mechanism with which they affect our cognitive health. We identified the many different kinds of toxins. And now to wrap up the episode, we're going to talk about how we can detoxify our living spaces with using practical and science-backed solutions. So before I start to talk about solutions that I am proposing, I'd like to say that starting small is almost always the best way to begin to build new and healthy habits, because if you decide to go out with a bang, just detoxing the entire space, you will be overwhelmed. Take it from me. I tried that, and I just got really confused very quickly and overwhelmed. And if I didn't know how to take a step back and reevaluate my decisions and how to proceed, I would just have let it go and not even bothered. So start small. Start with one thing at a time, the one that resonates the most with you. See how you feel, and then add on to that. Remember, we're building a habit. It's like going to the gym. You can't expect to start going to the gym and have amazing muscle tone in 2 sessions, right? It's a habit that you're going to be building, and the slower you go and the more intentional you are, your brain starts to identify and rewire itself, and it becomes a habit, and it's not overwhelming. So having said that, let us talk about how we can detoxify our living space. So the first thing I would like to highlight, to suggest, is to switch to natural cleaning products, because practically all of the cleaning products, the commercial grade cleaning products, contain harmful chemicals. So use safer natural alternatives. For instance, DIY cleaning solutions. I use sometimes white vinegar, and I mix it with essential oil to detoxify and just clean my surfaces. If I'm looking for a deeper clean, I formulate my own cleaning product. So there is a shop in Paris called Aroma Zone, and they carry surfactants, components of surfactants that, if you have a bit of understanding of of cosmetic chemistry, you can put together the ingredients and make yourself a really effective cleaning product. Could be spray products that have very low percentages of surfactants, or really high ones that you can use for your dishes or your laundry. But keeping it simple. If you go to these health food stores, I'm pretty sure they have these really healthy options for cleaning and maintaining your interior spaces. So have a look around wherever you're on the globe. Do a bit of research and look around you, and always remember to check the ingredients, not just the label. Check the ingredients. So about the white vinegar, I'm going to go back to the white vinegar. I have a little recipe that I can share. So if you mix white vinegar, baking soda, and water. You have for you an all-purpose cleaner. You can then add essential oils like of choice. Lavender is nice. Lemon is nice. Tea tree has antiviral and antibacterial properties. In fact, all essential oils have some level of antibacterial or antiviral activity, but tea tree is very well known for its antiviral and antibacterial properties. And they also add a really nice scent and, like I said, antibacterial properties to your cleaning experience. And also, I think I mentioned it to look for store-bought green products that are labeled phthalate-free or EPA Safer Choice certified. And an example of that is Dr. Bronner's soap. I believe Dr. Bronner's is available in most countries of the world. And if you can't get your hands on Dr. Bronner's, I'm pretty sure that there's lots of other brands that offer phthalate-free or EPA safe and certified products. So there's that. And another thing that I would suggest when you're thinking about detoxing is plants. I know that I talk about plants all the time. I have loads of plants in my apartment. There are many reasons why I have plants in my apartment. One, aesthetic, it's calm. I find them calming. They have really good they release beneficial volatile organic compounds, which I'm going to get to soon. And they're amazing at some varieties of plants are really good at detoxifying the air. Because research shows that some plants can absorb volatile organic compounds and then they release beneficial compounds in exchange. So top toxin-busting plants are the peace lily. And the peace lily has been shown to absorb benzene, formaldehyde, and trichloroethylene. The spider plant reduces carbon monoxide and formaldehyde in the atmosphere. The areca palm, it humidifies the air and filters out toluene and xylene. And the snake plant, the ubiquitous snake plant, removes toxins from the air at night. So it's not specified as the kind of toxin it removes, but it's very well known as a detoxifier. So how do plants help you detoxify? The indoor plants emit beneficial volatile organic compounds, or known as biological volatile organic compounds, that can improve cognitive functioning and reduce stress. So if you don't already have plants, I encourage you to go buy yourself 1, 2, 3, or a couple. So let's move on. Another advice that I can give is on interior finishes. So when you're renovating or upgrading your home, always choose to use materials that are free from harmful chemicals. For instance, if you're painting, use low VOC or zero VOC paint brands. There's lots of them out there. Do your research. They're easy to find. If you're installing new flooring, choose hardwood, cork, or bamboo that has been sealed with non-toxic products. By all means, avoid vinyl flooring because they very often contain phthalates. Okay? Excuse me. Now, when it comes to furniture and textile choices, textile fabrics for your chair covers, fabrics for window treatments, rugs, and so forth, look for Grain Guard certified furniture that's free from flame retardants and formaldehyde. And also be very careful when you're doing things like lighting candles. Always use a heat-safe receptacle. So it's up to us to make the compromises where if you're not using materials for now and up until the time that they come up with a chemical composition that is not toxic to humans, do your due diligence and do as much as you can to guard your entire apartment home space from catching on fire. Okay? So, and also choose organic cotton, wool, or hemp for your curtains, for your upholstery, and for your rugs. Your brain and body will thank you. And this is because synthetic materials can affect your memory and attention because of the chemicals that are used in their creation. And especially if you're going through hormonal or cognitive changes, it's a no-no. And the next advice is improve ventilation in your home. And I know that people talk about this all the time, but we don't do it enough, especially if you live in a part of the world where it's cold. And like I mean, it's gotten so cold now. We had snow yesterday. It snowed all day long, and it snowed for the better part of this morning. And my indoor plants are not, I do not believe that they can handle that much cold if I left my windows open. So I'm a little skeptical about opening the windows, but I move them away from the window as far as possible, and I leave my windows open for 15 minutes in one day just to swap out all that toxic air and let fresh air in. And the science behind this is that toxins in the air bind to organic compounds like dust and dander, and that way they remain suspended in the air. So unless you swap them out, you're going to keep inhaling and re-inhaling it. So it's really important to ventilate your space. So open your windows every day to increase airflow and to dilute the indoor pollutants that you've been exposed to. Use kitchen and bathroom fans to get rid of excessive moisture and also get rid of airborne toxins. And you could also use air purifiers with HEPA filters, and these filters trap particles and remove VOCs. An example of this is the Dyson Pure Cool or the Blue Air Classic 4 ACI. And next, like I said earlier, I'm going to mention it again. Using nature in your interior design removes toxins and improves your mental health. And they don't just do this; they're also very beautiful to look at. And also use natural materials like wood, stone, and clay. These and lengthen as much natural light as possible with sheer curtains or bounce lighting around with mirrors, right? And also in parts of the world where it's dry, like where I grew up in Nigeria. At this time of the year, it gets super dry. It's called the Harmattan season, and the use of indoor water features help a great deal to improve humidity levels and the air quality of the space. And another great thing about using humidifiers is that there are some brands you can add essential oils to, and that not only fragrances your apartment, it also helps to kill airborne bacteria and viruses and all that. And moving on, last advice is to use less plastic and synthetic materials. So I got rid of practically all of my plastic when I had that health challenge early last year. However, quite a few of my glass jars and bowls and things come with plastic covers. And I read in research that I saw, I don't remember where I saw it, where we were advised to, if you can't avoid the use of plastic covers, make sure that the food that you're storing in that glass jar or bowl sits just below the level of the plastic, such that it's not touching the food, and that way you're minimizing by a great deal the transference of microplastics into your food. And also, you can use, if you have access to that, I have not found these wraps, but use beeswax wrap instead of cling film. Cling film is ubiquitous, it's everywhere. I've used cling film in the past, and more and more I'm using less and less of it. I find that I miss the use of cling film only because I haven't found a safer and healthier alternative yet. The moment I get my hands on the beeswax wrap, I am golden. And also, finally, avoid synthetic air fresheners and use natural essential oils instead. So, you don't have to overhaul your home to make it toxin-free. Go easy on yourself. and start with one item like swapping out the cleaning products or adding a plant, because these small changes can make a really big difference to how your space affects your mental health. The goal is to create a home that nurtures your well-being. It is not perfection. We're working daily towards perfection. And this implies making intentional choices, step by step, making incremental changes in your home space until you arrive at the point where you are at almost optimal level and you keep going from there. Yeah? Every change is a win for your health and your peace of mind. So the main idea here is your home should be a sanctuary for you and not a source of stress. Look at your space with fresh eyes and replace a problematic item and see how great it feels to be in charge of your space. So I would love to hear from you. Tell me what's one thing that you'll be swapping out in your home in the comments. And let's inspire each other, because I also am still doing research and I don't claim to be a beacon of knowledge and wisdom, because all of the information that I shared with you here was because of the research that I've done in the creation of this episode. And I know that there's lots of people out there who know something that I could benefit from. So please share your ideas, ask your questions, or share your wins with me on my social media, Instagram and TikTok. I'm more active on TikTok than Instagram at the Perimenopause Playbook. And I would love to hear from you and learn from you as well. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with somebody you know could benefit from this and would love to have access to this information. And also subscribe and leave a review to help more people find this podcast and join our mission to create healthier and happier spaces. And that's it for today, guys. Until next time, be well, stay well, design your life and space with intention. Bye.